Hey Brownsville, welcome back to another episode of Brownsville at Large. I'm your host, City Commissioner at Large A, Tino Villarreal Jr. Today is going to be one of the most important conversations we've had on the show because the decisions we make today will determine what Brownsville looks like not just tomorrow, but in 10, 20, even 30 years from now. When we look at our city and where it stands, the numbers share a remarkable story. Brownsville has achieved a AA bond rating, the highest credit rating in our city's history. We're managing a capital improvement plan of over $380 million, investing in roads, drainage, traffic, public safety, parks, mobility, and quality of life infrastructure. We're seeing billions of dollars of the private industry coming into our community, from the Port of Brownsville to LNG, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, technology, tourism, housing, and new businesses. The port alone contributes approximately $12 billion in annual economic activity and supports tens of thousands of jobs across the state of Texas. Our city is approaching 200,000 residents, and for the first time, people around the nation and around the world are looking at Brownsville as a place of opportunity. But with opportunity, as we know, comes responsibility. The question is, how do we grow? But the real question is, how do we grow intelligently? How do we protect the environment that makes our region so special? How do we preserve the culture and character that define Brownsville? How do we make sure that our roads, drainage, parks, police, fire, and city services keep pace with the speed of change? How do we ensure that our children are growing up in a Brownsville that has opportunities that previous generations could only ever dream about? Those are the conversations we're going to have today. And joining me is someone whose responsibility is to take the vision of our mayor and the commission and turn it into action every day. City Manager Alan Gard oversees the operations of the city of 200,000 residents, thousands of employees, multiple departments, and the services that our families rely on every single day. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
So we're going to have a little conversation. We're going to go all over the place. I know as city manager, there's so much that goes under your umbrella, your purview. We're going to try to talk about some of the big highlights and concerns that we hear all the time. But before we do that, just to kind of break the ice, I have this series called 21 Questions with Tino. And so it's kind of a rapid fire, answer them if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine. We just move on. But the first thing that comes to mind, what is your go-to coffee order?
Pike Place roast with some half and half.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
Around what time does your day start?
About 6. Got to
Okay.
walk the dog.
Favorite place to eat in Brownsville?
Well, that's a hard question. There's so many good places now. It's really tough to choose. My go-to place is either Toddle Inn or Black Bear Diner.
Okay.
I'm a breakfast guy.
Favorite taco spot?
Calacas.
What was your first job?
My first job was working at Taco Bell in El Paso, Texas. So making tacos and all that good stuff, and for $1.40 an hour.
Nice. What would be something that people would be surprised to learn about Alan Gard?
For a couple of years as a hobby, I was an umpire for Little League baseball and Little League girls softball.
What do you prefer, a beach day, the golf course, or a walk in linear park?
What do I prefer? I would prefer a beach day. I don't get nearly enough of them.
What is your favorite way to spend your free time?
Boy, I like to, when I have spare time, I'm trying hard to stay in shape. So I like going to the gym. Reading. I love reading non-management books. I read management books all the time, so I like doing a little fiction reading occasionally.
Who has had the greatest influence on your leadership style?
There was a guy that I worked for at the city of Dallas. His name was Jack Lewer, and Jack took a chance on me when others wouldn't. And so what I learned from that was sometimes you don't know the whole story behind something. So giving people a second chance is what I picked up from Jack, and that's made a huge difference in my life.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Um, Listen to understand. Don't listen to respond.
That's a good one. Um, if your staff had to describe you in one word, what would it be?
Multiple staffs have described me this way. I always remain calm.
Good. Um, the hardest part of your job that people don't see?
Um, One of the things that I am the final appeal when people are recommended for termination, and you hold check their checkbook in your hands. And so making that decision on whether to terminate somebody is always very difficult for me.
What motivates you to continue serving in local government?
Building community. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years. It took me the first 20 to understand exactly what we were doing, and that is building community day in and day out. And once I realized what we're doing, I've had a deep passion for it, no matter what city I've worked for. And it keeps me going every day. I wake up every day knowing that I'm going to make Brownsville a little bit better for everybody.
What's your favorite thing about Brownsville?
The people. They're super welcoming. They're very optimistic and very positive and friendly, and they very accepting. It's a great place to work, and it's very genuine. So I know that people really mean it, how they treat you, and it motivates me to treat them well back.
What would you say is one thing Brownsville does better than anyone else?
Wow. Um, I think that it is that acceptance. When you come to this community, you're accepted as family almost immediately, without questions asked. And there's a lot of communities when you're new, they look at you very suspiciously, like you're there to mess with them or change their way of life. I've never felt that here. I've always felt accepted, and it's refreshing, and I've really, my wife Molly and I both really have enjoyed that about the people here.
What's the biggest challenge Brownsville must solve in the next decade?
A lot of people say Brownsville is the next huge economic development region for the state of Texas. And so we've watched that cycle through in Dallas Fort Worth. We watched it cycle through in Houston. We watched it cycle through in Austin. And they're saying that the Rio Grande Valley's next. And so the biggest challenge I think that Brownsville faces as the leader in the valley is going to be how we make sure we work with our partners, especially PUB, in order to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place. And so their role in terms of electric power, in terms of water and sewer, and the ability to do that, to make sure we're taking care of that part of our environment. And then how does the city fit into that? How do we work with TxDOT to make sure our road system? So I think infrastructure development and trying to stay ahead of the growth is going to be a key to our success.
What keeps you up at night as city manager?
You know, very little, really. The next day is always different. The next day, there's always a new challenge. And I know that I have a great staff. I know that I have wonderful support from the city commission. And so I sleep like a baby. Nothing keeps me up at night.
What excites you most about Brownsville's future?
Oh, the opportunity. Um, Everybody wants to be here now. And so when you're being chased and you're not the chaser, completely changes the dynamic. So I'm very excited about being part of this organization and the fact that everybody wants to be here. It's just now, how do we fit them all in? How do we find the right place for them? and how do we do it in a smart way so that we're building a community that everybody wants to be a part of, and we minimize the problems that come with growth.
Any hidden talents or anything close to it?
Me?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I'm pretty good at tossing up peanut M&Ms and catching them in my mouth, but other than that, no, I'm just a normal guy.
And we'll finish with a serious question. Just finish the sentence. In the next 15 years, Brownsville will be.
Um, the center of American growth, of U.S. growth.
Wow. Very powerful. That's 21 questions with Alan Gard. Now we're going to talk about some of the meat of why we have you on the show. So as you know, um, this show is about providing the viewers with information, and it's not any other type of show. There's plenty of shows out there that speculate. Today's about information, and one of the biggest misconceptions I think that people have about local government is that they see the mayor and commissioners making policy decisions, but sometimes they don't understand who's responsible for turning them into action. You see the day-to-day operation of a city that's approaching 200,000 residents. Um, for someone watching at home, explain what the city manager actually does. What does a typical day look like?
Sure. Well, the city charter for the city of Brownsville was set up to operate like a corporation. So people say city should act, government should act more like business. Well, we're actually set up that way. Our city commission operates like a board of directors. And as you said, they set policy. Staff's job is to carry that policy out in the most efficient and effective way possible. And so our form of government, which the city charter, by the way, was voted on and approved by the voters. So this is the form of government that we have chosen in Brownsville. It wasn't something that the city commission came up with or staff came up. This was put together probably by some charter review committee, probably a number of years ago. It was presented to the voters, and our voters, the people that live here, they're the ones who pick this form of government. And so while the commission sets policy, staff has to come up with ways, and that's why staff is, we have a whole group of professionals. Remember, the city has 23 different businesses, and we have professional experts in all 23 of those areas, and they have staff that are trained and educated and developed in those specific areas. And so the way we carry out your policy is we come up with choices. We come up with options for the city commission to approve and vote on. We have lots of different rules that we have to abide by. When we do purchasing, we have to make sure we have fair systems so that we get the best price for goods and services for the city. We have taxpayer money, and we have an obligation and responsibility to make sure that we spend that money wisely. We have experts in engineering. So we have people that engineer and develop streets. And then we put those streets out for bid, and then we hire the best contractors to build those streets. So staff's job is to come up with great options to carry out the policies from the city commission. I have a friend who has this saying, and I love repeating it. He says, the city commission could vote to pave all of our streets purple. And I would probably provide you with a memo that tells you 25 reasons why that's a bad idea. But if you voted and approved for us to pave the streets purple, we would pave the streets purple and we would win a national award doing it. And then when they failed in 5 years, we would say, see, they failed. But we would do our best to carry out your policy because that's how this system works. And so staff's job is to make sure the job gets done day in, day out, that our parks get mowed, that the library books on the shelves are the ones that our community want to read, that our police officers are responsive, that our fire department has well-trained EMS, so when an ambulance shows up at your house, they're going to save your life. So that our streets are being built and maintained so that they last a long time and they're smooth. So that animal control does the best job it can to provide for our furry friends out there. Our public health department makes sure that you stay safe, that when you go to a restaurant, you can eat there in confidence that you're not going to get sick. So our job is to make sure that the nuts and bolts work, that you all establish these policies. You have this vision of what kind of city you want Brownsville to be. Staff's job is to make sure that we're helping you achieve that vision.
So, changing some gears, you're in the city manager role. You've got over 1,200 employees, 20, you said
23 businesses.
23 businesses, departments. Let's talk about how Brownsville has changed. So, when did you move here?
I've been here about 2.5 years, moved here in October of 23.
Okay. And just in October of 23 to now, because I can share with you that Brownsville 5, 10 years ago was a completely different Brownsville. For decades, the biggest challenges we had were trying to figure out ways to make Brownsville an attractive place for our kids to want to come back to and invest and live. Uh, Now we have global commercial space ecosystem in our backyard. Now we have the port with a deeper channel. We have growing tourism economy, new hotels. There's just so much boom happening. But since you've been here, let's just talk about from 23 to 26, 3 to 4, 5 years. Um, what do you think has changed the most?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that the change didn't start when I came. If you look back to 2019, 2020 is really when you saw the change start under former city manager Noel Bernal, and then it continued under Helen Ramirez. And what really enticed me, what really intrigued me about looking at the job in Brownsville was this idea that it was growing and changing, that it was becoming more professional, and that I saw a real opportunity for me to bring my skill set in, and I really wanted to be a part of that. And so what I've seen over the last 6, 7 years is the city of Brownsville itself has become a more professional organization. It has a wonderful professional staff, and the workers are amazing. You know, a large percentage of the employees here now were born and raised here. And the thing that I noticed immediately about them is that they absolutely love working for the city. They love what they do, and they love that they're making their community better. The community that they grew up in, they love the fact that they're part of making it better. The things that you noted, I think some of it happened by accident, some of it happened through a lot of hard work and planning, and some of it a combination thereof. The fact that Elon Musk was looking for a place to launch rockets, and Boca Chica Beach just happened to be a prime location for what he wanted to do. He's looking for a place in the United States closer to the equator. Well, you can't get much closer in the United States to the equator than Brownsville, Texas. When he came here, I think that started to really change things. The Port of Brownsville has had some tremendous leadership, that has had some vision, that has seen what the port can really be and truly be, and has really worked hard to take advantage of that and bring new companies and new ideas here. LNG has become huge, and when that industry was looking for new locations where they could have LNG plants, the port stood out immediately. And so those kind of investments took advantage of that opportunity, which is why I think now this region, our RGV, why the Valley is considered to be the next hot region in Texas for development. So timing was part of it, leadership was part of it, vision was part of it, and the fact that the city of Brownsville, in terms of its organizational growth, professionalism, development, all happened kind of at the same time, is a little bit of a coincidence, but also wonderful that it's all happened and it's working together to really make Brownsville and the Valley the place to be.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a $380 million question, and that's the CIP.
Sure.
I know that a lot of our Brownsville residents, a lot of our viewers, and I hope that the ones that are watching because they want to just learn more about how just things operate. Can you explain to the viewers how you can take a project from an idea on paper to something that you can drive on, walk on, benefit, like streets, like the redoing of Old Highway 77 that's And people just see, they see the orange cones, they see the traffic closures, they sit in traffic and they're like, why is this taking so long? But there's a lot that goes into that, from the design, acquisition, permitting. Can you kind of just kind of guide people and say, when we talk about infrastructure development and we talk about a CIP, how do how why does it take this long? But more importantly, why do we believe in putting so much of taxpayer dollars into infrastructure development?
Sure. So we have bigger projects and we have smaller projects. And sometimes you see the smaller projects do get done fairly quickly. If you're just going to resurface a street, we do mill and overlay great, and we do that in house. Our public works guys are amazing. You saw how quickly they knocked out Price Road. When I first got here, they did Price Road from Central all the way to the Expressway, and they knocked that thing out in about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and including all the striping and everything. So if you're just stripping off 4 inches of asphalt, grinding it up, and then laying it back down and smoothing it out, you can do it really fast. Now, something like Old Highway 77, that's a huge project. That particular road was probably 10 years past its useful life. And again, the vision of the commission, they saw an opportunity to create not just what Old Highway 77 used to be, but to create a really nice corridor. Now, in order to do that, the commission had adopted what's called a complete streets policy. And what complete streets mean is that we're going to rebuild that street in a way that it's going to last 25 to 30 years. That means we have to put drainage in. That means we have to put curb and gutter. We're going to put in 6-foot sidewalks and 10-foot sidewalks. We're going to put the electrical for the street lighting underground. We're going to make it beautiful. We're going to make it last, and it's going to be different. In order to do that, it takes probably about 1.5 to 2 years of just engineering, just paperwork. Remember, we have to also partner with our the Public Utility Agency, PUB, because they're the ones who are responsible for all the pipe underground, the water and the sewer underground, as well as relocating all the electrical. So they have to do all the engineering to move all that, because we don't want to put a brand new street over 25-year-old water and sewer pipes, because when one of them breaks and we need to tear up that new street, then we get criticized for tearing up our new street. So the idea is make it all new at once. That way it's good for the next 25 to 30 years. So we took that approach, and that's a long stretch. That's a long stretch of roadway. We have to dig up all the concrete. A lot of the water and sewer pipes especially, some of it are 30 feet underground. So you have to trench down 30 feet. You have to properly, in order to do it safely, you have to make sure you're putting in proper safety equipment, because you don't need that earth caving in on somebody down below putting in new pipe. You got to get the angle of the pipe done right, especially for sewer pipe. If you want to do gravity, you want it to go in the right direction, right? When you flush the toilet, you want it to go in the right direction. So all of that engineering has to take place. Then we put it out for a bid. Remember, the city does not build these projects by ourselves. We hire outside professional contractors to do it. And they're the ones who are responsible for the day-to-day construction of those projects. We send out inspectors because we want to make sure it's done right. So a lot of times they'll do some work, then they have to wait for our inspectors to come out to make sure and check and make sure the work is done right. Then they have to get all the dirt and everything put back on top. We want it packed down right. We test how it's packed. Then, of course, what happens? We get rain. And every time we get rain, it slows down progress. The project, Old Highway 77, if anybody will look back when we started that project, you will see in many of the newspaper articles, it said very clearly, this project is going to take at least 2 years to finish. And so we're about 14, 15 months into it. It's going to be about on time. It may be a month late or so, but because of the rain days and things like that, it may take a little bit longer. But that project is about on time. I think you will see things starting to move a lot faster now because all the pipe is in the ground. In fact, they saw they put down the concrete apron right there on Morrison. And so that's the beginning of concrete starting to go down. So I think you'll see activity out there regular as soon as it stops raining. Remember, one rain day actually equals about 3 to 4 days of no work because the ground has to dry out. You see other contractors are moving really fast. Coffee Port Road, part of Coffee Road from 820 up by HEB all the way to Paredes. That is moving very quickly. But again, that's a 14 to 16 month project, just that part of Coffee Port Road. You just have to understand these big complete street projects, they take a lot of time because we want to do them right. So we're changing out all the water and sewer, we're changing out all the plumbing, putting in all new electrical to make sure that whatever we put there is good for the next 25 to 30 years.
Well, I think also people need to understand that this kind of work has never really been done in the city of Brownsville. So, I mean, this is groundbreaking for the city of Brownsville to even think of doing the full road from 30 feet underground all the way to the top. Back in the day, Brownsville would just fill potholes, and we were the pothole capital of the world. Now we are doing things right, and there are growing pains that come with the CIP. But part of that CIP, 70 million or so, in a public safety complex, and I know that we, the commission, we were highly scrutinized because people were saying, why are you moving the police department? Why are you taking it out of downtown? And for us, the important part is how do we respond to emergencies? And Brownsville is no longer the Brownsville that's only sitting by the border. Brownsville's growing all the way north to Rancho Viejo, Madeira. It's extending all the way to the port. Brownsville's changing. Can you talk to us about that public safety complex and what it means for the future of the safety of Brownsville residents?
Sure. I think the public safety complex is truly one of those visionary projects. First of all, I want to reassure you in terms of public safety, our officers are out in their vehicles in your neighborhoods all the time. They do not sit in a building. So I want you to be rest assured that our community is going to be safe no matter where public safety building is located. We needed to move from that location. It's landlocked. It can't grow. It cannot expand. And as you noted, we're a growing city. Our police force is going to need to grow over time. And so we wanted to be in a location that first was big enough that could grow. We wanted to build a building that'll last for 50 years, and that building will last for 50 years. There will be room for expansion there. But we also needed to have a place that could handle all the new technology that's coming into crime prevention and crime fighting, and that's the space that worked. The other thing I think you really need to remember, as you noted, those new neighborhoods, in 15 years, maybe sooner, that's going to be the center of town out where the industrial park is. With our neighborhoods expanding and growing out that way, our public safety facility will be basically in the middle of Brownsville. And so we needed to look to the future. The commission looked to the future. They saw that vision, and they saw a lot of positive things about it. First of all, we didn't pay anything for the land. So we saved a lot of money that we're able to put into the building. It needed to have cybersecurity technology, something that would not have been possible in the current location. Some of the biggest threats that cities face today are not from criminals with guns, it's from criminals with computers. There are cities daily that are paying multi-million-dollar ransoms for ransomware attacks. And so we want to make sure that we protect our citizens' investment, that we protect the city's money and the city's finances. And one way to do that is have a robust cybersecurity program in a facility where we house that. So there are a lot of good reasons to relocate the police department out there. We are not going to abandon that building. We're already thinking how we're going to reuse that building for other departments and how we redesign and reshape that. So the city is not going to be abandoning downtown. We will continue to be a fixture here. We're putting $10 million into City Hall to update all of its electrical and HVAC systems. So the city's not going anywhere. We're going to continue to be part of the fabric of downtown and be a part of it. It was just time for public safety to find a new home.
One of the things that excites me the most, Mr. Guard, as during my time as city commissioner, is talking about how we're starting to no longer be reactive, but be proactive as a city. And part of that is all the plans that come with that. We are talking about doing a comprehensive plan, uh, and every plan that came before that, the Downtown Renaissance Master Plan, the Parks and Rec Health Master Plan. We have the housing plan. So there's so many of those. How important is it in your experience, 40 years, uh, to plan and not just put things on a shelf? Because everybody goes, "Oh, you guys are just creating master plans and you're going to put things on a shelf." No, I don't think Brownsville ever sat there and thought of how we wanted a whole comprehensive plan to look like. Where do we want to grow strategically? Where do we want more houses? Where do we want more offices, more retail? Where do we want car, car lots? Where do we want used car lots? Um, let's talk about all the plans, but from the lens of the comprehensive master plan.
Sure. Um, One of my favorite sayings is failing to plan is planning to fail. And so the plans that the city had were outdated. I think some of them I would even be willing to admit probably sat on a shelf and not a lot happened with them. And I think that's been one of the differences in having improving the professionalism of staff, is that we have people in here now that as we have developed these plans, we've made sure there's an implementation piece that's at the end of every plan. So what are the next steps that we take in order to execute the plan? I think one of the things that you will also see and notice about each and every one of these plans is community engagement. We have very much adopted a citizen first approach. And I love that because you live here, you've been living here, you're part of this, you're part of this community. I think it's very important that we start by asking you, what do you want it to look like? What do you think the problems are? What do you think the issues are? And so in the Parks Health Rec Master Plan, we had over 1,600 responses from the community. We had dozens of community engagement events, from pop-ups at the farmers market to an online survey. We had a number of different ways you could engage. So no matter what your situation was in life, there was some opportunity for you to give us feedback and input into what you wanted our parks to look like. The Downtown Master Plan, we had dozens of community engagement events in different formats and different ways. We met with the Youth Advisory Board and asked our young people, what do you want in our downtown? What would make you come downtown on a regular basis? We included the business community, the stakeholders whose livelihood depends on how our downtown performs and what it looks like and what its future is. So in all these plans, you have seen there be very intentional community engagement to hear what the community actually wants it to look like. And I think that is a difference from prior plans that were done. So now we have the Parks Health and Rec Master Plan is done. We're working on something with Bloomberg Harvard to kind of help enhance and implement parts of that. And how do we have a healthy community and healthy parks? We're in the middle of, we just kicked off the Housing Master Plan. And so what kinds of housing do we need? We know we need ranges of housing so we have affordability for everybody. And then we're going to take all of these and do a comprehensive plan that's going to include all of these elements, plus how should our land be used? Where do we want to have apartments? Where do we want to have commercial? How does that all work together? We have a trails master plan that will fit into this. We have a roadway plan that fits into that, which goes along with the recently instituted capital recovery fee. So we're already looking at ways, how do we finance this growth? How do we expand our roadway system or expand our transportation options so that we make sure everybody can get around town efficiently and effectively without running into stoplights everywhere. We have staff working on the other side. We have $23 million in state grants to synchronize our traffic system. And so while we get these plans done, we have other folks that are helping us find financing and other ways to make sure that we can implement these plans without putting too much of a burden on the taxpayer. Again, the goal is we want a better Brownsville. We all want a better Brownsville. And we got to do that by starting out with, what does the plan look like? Once we have that plan, then how do we implement it? How do we go forward? So I think we're doing things in the right way, with the right steps, in the right order. I'm excited about it. I've been really excited about all the people that have been involved. We now have adopted a museum and culture master plan. And again, we met with nonprofits. We met with people in the art community. We met with people from historical preservation, because arts and culture go along together here in Brownsville. They're not separate. They're very much together. And coming out of that, we're working with a gentleman to restore the San Fernando building downtown, which will have one of the most incredible art collections period. I mean, I'll just stop right there. Not in Texas, just one of the most incredible art collections, period. That will be in Brownsville, Texas. And a lot of that is due to the fact that we did very careful, very intentional planning ahead of time.
Yeah. I think the plans for me are we're at the right time because of the growth that's happening. And so getting those plans in is one of the joys that I have participated in and being part of the city commission. Shifting gears, one of the conversations that's created a lot of excitement in our community is the ongoing discussions with the United Soccer League, USL. I know that that's a big deal. Like, I have been, I ran for office hoping that we would do a youth advisory board, and you have been instrumental in helping us create that in the city of Brownsville. I also ran for office because I'm a big believer in the sports park. I think that for years I sat as chair of BCIC, and a lot of my colleagues, it was a heated debate whether the sports park was a good investment or a bad investment for the city of Brownsville. And I always believed it to be a great investment. I think that if we maximize its potential, it could create a sports entertainment district. The vision that we're seeing now is a place, hopefully, where we could host some professional men and women's soccer, a place that attracts regional and national tournaments, a place that creates year-round activity with academies and leagues, developmental leagues, in the style that the USL. I know we've had extensive conversations, including welcoming one of the largest USL delegations they've ever sent to an expansion market. We have an MOU, and we're looking at that. Can you just update residents with whatever you can share on the show at where we are in the process of the USL? It's in September. It'll be a year.
Sure. These things take time, and I know that's not an answer anybody wants to hear. These are big ticket, very expensive projects that take a lot of time to develop, and it starts with interest. And the USL clearly has a very, very strong interest in Brownsville specific. They're not looking at McAllen. They're not looking at Mission. They're looking at Brownsville. This is where they want to be. And so, again, we've had a number of conversations with them. They visited here. I think, it's fair to say, on a very 30,000-foot level, they made us an offer, and we provided them with a counter offer. And I think I'm not saying anything that I couldn't say from the commission perspective. I can say there's been more activity recently with that, and we should be hearing some things soon. On parallel course, based on your and the commission's leadership, we are hosting a steering committee now of interested stakeholders from the community to talk to us about what their expectations are for the USL. They want to know how they fit in, and how their league or their business or whatever it is, how that would fit in. I think we want to be cautious about it. Um, while the USL has a great track record, I don't think that the city wants to get stuck with an abandoned USL team, USL
Yep.
franchise. So I think we need to be very cautious in how we approach the negotiation. And we want to make sure there's certain safeguards in place that protect the city and protect our investment. From the standpoint of the sports park, I would say we have an asset.
Of course.
And while it may not be what some people thought it would be, because we did have to put a lot of money in the underground that people never see, we have something that at least I could say it's shovel ready.
Yep.
It does need to be to meet whatever the USL requirements are. It does need some work, but we have something to offer now, which some of the communities that the USL ended up in had started with a blank slate. So I think we're halfway there with that. Um, I am encouraged by the communication that the USL has had with us. I'm very encouraged by their continued interest. Every time we have a conversation with them, it's very engaging, and they want to be here. We just have to find that right equation, that right formula for what is the city's role, what is the role of BCIC, what is their role, what do their investors have to do and put up, and then try to marry that to a vision for not just the sports park, but perhaps even a complete sports entertainment district that would be all around the sports park. And how would that fit? How would that fit with that neighborhood? How would that fit with the school over there? How would that fit with our development as it goes toward the expressway? And so the talks are very engaging and very positive. I think you'll see something happen before the end of the year.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, my dream for all the viewers in that area would be to have our own stadium, uh, to have our jerseys. I have been throwing crazy name out there. I'm not going to share it yet because I don't want anybody to take it. But I would love to have like a team that has a real catchy name, that has an awesome mascot, that we get to go to the stadium, see the team. But more importantly for me, I think the thing is, I really love that we have like Brasa, Boisa. We have so many people already interested in developing soccer. For me, I always tell people Brownsville is the best soccer city in the nation, period. And I do believe that because we are, it's what the USL does in providing a professional academy. Like the way you said, the city became a little bit more professional. We need to professionalize the fact that we are the best at soccer. And so we need to have that kind of academy that is professional and moves there. And so my dreams to do that, my dreams to walk across the street and go into, to a restaurant after watching the game, and then to, walk another block and go upstairs to the third floor and live in my loft and apartment, and I can overlook the soccer stadium from my apartment, and that be a view. So that's kind of my vision for that. A couple of more topics, Mr. Guard. I know we can be here forever, but one of the things for me is really talking about people's concerns of being displaced. When we talk about our housing plan and things like that, I know that there's a lot of people that are concerned that uh, their home value is going up. They can no longer afford to pay taxes there. That they're going to be displaced. That there's gentrification coming to Brownsville. What's your view on that? Like, how are you seeing that, and how are we addressing that from a standpoint of housing and development?
I think that's a really important question. One of the things that uh, people can do during the housing master plan process is participate and make it very clear that that's important. I know that the commission has said very clearly, we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to make sure everybody gets included. We want to make sure everybody has a clean, safe, affordable place to live, no matter what their income level is. And I believe, as someone who's been in local government for 40 years. I want to make sure everybody that works here can live here. So it doesn't matter if you work at Whataburger or if you work at, you're an entrepreneur and you have your own restaurant or your own business, or if you're a developer and, you're a millionaire. I think everybody that lives here everybody that works here should be able to live here. So I am very hopeful that the commission is very involved in the housing plan, that our Brownsville Housing Authority, they're going to be engaged as a stakeholder in this. Come Dream, Come Build. They're coming up with amazing products that provide affordable options for people. And we're looking at a number of things at the city. How can we create a land bank so that we have land that would be available to affordable housing builders? And so we are trying to look on every front to make sure that we have an inventory of housing that can meet the needs of everybody, no matter what your income level. That would be my goal and my vision, and I hope our housing plan accomplishes that.
Yeah, and so get involved is the
Absolutely.
message, right? Get
Absolutely.
involved and share your concerns so that we can appropriately plan for that and take in your concerns. One of the most important parts of our conversation is going to be this, because as you know, leadership, we love celebrating victories and cutting ribbons. But one of the most important things is having those difficult conversations and concerns that residents have. I know that there's no denying that we're on the historic level of economic impact. And like you said, I think Brownsville is on the radar, not only for the state of Texas, but nationally as one of the cities of the future. The Port of Brownsville generates approximately $12 billion in annual economic activity and supports tens of thousands of jobs throughout Texas. The LNG project at our port represent approximately $30 billion of private investment between its phases. We have commercial space industry on an international stage with SpaceX, but there are residents here in Brownsville who have some serious concern. They ask, what about our air quality? What about our wildlife and our environmentally sensitive areas? What about the beaches and the public access? I know that all of those are not necessarily in the city limits of Brownsville, but Mr. Guard, how do we strike that balance? In your opinion, how does Brownsville grow responsibly, knowing that we have those phenomenons just right here in our backyard?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I probably don't have the best answer. First of all, as you noted correctly, the city has very little influence over things outside of our city limits. They're not within our jurisdiction. So we really cannot control, permit, allow, disallow. They're going to build where they're allowed to build by the entities that are in charge of those areas. That means probably the county. I know in some instances the state intervenes in these. The permits are usually required by the Texas Environmental Control or Quality, TCEQ. And so they're the ones who issue these permits. The use of the beaches used to be controlled by Cameron County. The state took over that jurisdiction and made it more difficult for the county to control their own beaches. My answer is going to be same as the last one. Get involved, talk. I would caution you, when you get angry and high pitched and your voice is getting loud and people don't listen to you, I would say approach it with facts, approach it with data. We like to say, I don't like to say data driven. I like to say data informed.
Yeah.
Make data informed decisions. Make data informed arguments, and when you talk quietly or you talk respectfully, you talk with much more authority. Get petitions that are, logically written and get signatures. We have a West Rail Trail today because people showed up with 5,000 signatures with a logical idea, not because they yelled and screamed the loudest, but because they made a persuasive argument with facts and with data. That's what's worked. So I would encourage you to follow that system, do what's worked, and bring persuasive arguments, bring the clout of numbers, 5,000, 10,000 signatures, and speak in a way that shows you're respectful, that there are two sides to this. We do need growth. We do want to see well-paying jobs. We do want our children to go away to college but come back home to Brownsville. So there are two sides to this. Try to see both sides and try to talk in a way that we can have a real dialogue and that's not just one-sided.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great point. I mean, for me, engagement is always important. I know that we get a lot of calls, a lot of concerns, and for everybody's right, they want us as the commission and the mayor to be the sounding board and to be out there and addressing these concerns. But like you said, I mean, I think the important part is the authority. What authority does the city of Brownsville actually have, and what authority belongs to state and federal agencies? But we do have a good working relationship with those entities, and I do know that like you said, they're not great answers, but I always tell people when you look at these concerns, they are concerns, and then they're concerns that those entities themselves have as well. They're trying to address that as they are growing and they are here doing that. I have a really good friend of mine, and she works for the environmental department of SpaceX, for example. So there are challenges, but we are here to listen as well. We are here for you to share your concerns and to be the sounding board because we want what's best for everybody here. We've covered so much. Is there something that is pressing on your desk that we did not discuss that you would like to inform the residents of that we did not talk about today?
Yeah, sure. The one thing I would like to invite you all is Tuesday, June 23rd at the Event Center. The city is going to host an open budget workshop with the commission. We're going to give the commission a first blush look at where we are for our fiscal year 2026-2027 annual budget. We're going to talk about what the budget basics are, what we're looking at doing. We'll also be presenting information on the citizen satisfaction survey. And so that, again, we listen first. We listen to our community first. And we will talk with the commission about various budget alternatives that we would like to recommend that might address some of those concerns that we're hearing from the community. And so, people say that one of the things that came up in the survey is the citizens didn't feel like we were transparent enough. So here's your chance. We're going to be transparent as we possibly can. Share the budget. It's in my opinion, the most important document that the City Commission approves every year. It's our financial plan. It's our operation guide. It's how we communicate and allocate our what's important to our citizens, how we communicate what's important financially. And so I definitely want to invite the whole community to come to that event. It's at the Event Center. It'll start at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, June 23rd.
Perfect. Anything else?
I think that's enough.
Well, we had a lot to talk about, folks. We could sit here for hours. There's so much to do, but I hope you get to know a little bit more of Mr. Alan Gard, city manager for the city of Brownsville. We're so blessed and lucky to have you here. I know that you and your wife love this community the same way that you felt that the city embraced you. I know that you've embraced us. And I particularly am just thrilled to have you sitting here. I know that I've learned a lot just from being around you, and I know that everybody else in the city feels the same way. So fortunate to have you here, and super glad that you were a guest on our show.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it, and that's going to wrap up this episode of Brownsville at Large with Mr. Alan Gard. Catch you next time.
Come along for the ride.